Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you are a returning listener, we're glad to have you back. And if you're new to the channel, we hope you like what you hear. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. So, we talk about a wide range of topics, talk about keeping control of our emotions, making fact based, left brained, unemotional decisions, and trying to make the world a better place by how we interact with other people and what we do with our time. So, in today's episode, we are going to talk about suicide rates for men. Kind of a heavy subject, but I think it's very, very important. As a father of three adult boys, I have a lot of experience with boys. I also grew up with three sisters. I've got a mom. I've been married to my wife for 30 plus years. I have lots of aunts and female cousins that I care about very much. So this has nothing to do with not caring about women or talking about women. On this particular subject, though, as you'll see, this disproportionately impacts men. And we heard that statistic and started doing some digging on it and wanted to share what we found with you guys to hopefully help you think about it. And you may know someone that needs help right now. And if that's the case, we're hoping that you're able to hear this and provide them some support and help them get to a better spot. So, important to talk here, not a doctor, never had any medical training, not a psychologist. I'm not giving medical advice. With all of that said, I think there's some common sense things that we can do and look for. And I think we have a responsibility to the people we care about to try to help them when they need help. So, let's dive into what we found and we'll talk through it. The suicide rate for men is about 4 times that of women. So, said differently, if 80% of suicides, if you have 5 suicides and 4 of them are men, that means 80% of suicides are men. And it's not good when anyone is thinking about suicide or struggling with suicidal thoughts. But for some reason, it's a more impactful, and men tend to follow through and take very definitive action more often than women do. As you kind of dive further into those statistics, statistically the highest category at risk from suicide are non-Hispanic American Indian or Alaskan Native men, followed closely by non-Hispanic white men. So those are the 2 highest risk groups, just based on the number of suicides that happen based on versus the total population of those groups. Research also shows that women attempt suicide more often, but men choose more lethal means. So I don't know what to make of that other than clearly all of those people need help. For women, it may be more of a cry for help than an attempt to terminate their life, whereas men take very definitive approaches when they attempt to commit suicide. All of it's not good. We need to deal with all of it. So I'm not trying to downplay or minimize less lethal attempts at suicide. So let's just be very, very clear about that. The World Health Organization reports that suicide represents half of all male violent deaths worldwide. So half of men that die from violent means do so at their own hands when you look at it worldwide. That's a crazy number when you think about it. It's a really serious issue. And then also interestingly, men over 75 are at the greatest risk of suicide of all age groups. Now, I don't know if that's because there's less men over the age of 75 versus the number of men that actually commit suicide that age group. But either way, that was very, very surprising to us. It's not what we would have thought at all. So, with those statistics, a brief review of some statistics out there, what are the risk factors that you should be looking for if someone may be considering suicide or having suicidal thoughts? So, not every attempt at suicide results in completion, although first attempts are often followed by fatal second attempts. So, try once, don't get it. Second time, they take more definitive and final action, which is concerning. So what should you be looking at? What are some risk factors of someone that may have suicidal thoughts? Were they bullied? Or are they being bullied at school, at college, at work? Are they going through a divorce or a relationship breakdown? Do they have a history of physical or sexual abuse, whether they're committing it or the victim of it? Both of those are challenges. Have they been in prison? Are they in prison? Those can be hopeless situations as well and change thought processes in a very negative way. The loss of a loved one through trauma or disease. So if someone really close to you, the rock that you count on, passes away, that can be a real critical point for some people in the world. Mental illness, particularly depression and painful or debilitating conditions. So that one probably not real surprising, but also not hard to hide from our perspective. So we know there's lots of people that put on a good face to the rest of the world, but deep down inside, they're actually really hurting. And so that one's tough, tough to look at, or tough to diagnose, I guess is a better way to say, in your daily interactions with people. Inability to form or sustain meaningful relationships. Are they alone? Have they tried and failed to have relationships with women, have relationships with friends, have relationships at work? Followed that social isolation or living alone. So it's very, very difficult for people who are by themselves that don't have someone to share their challenges, their problems, their issues with. And a lot of times they will have very negative and suicidal thoughts. Unemployment. That's a big one for men in particular, because traditionally men have been looked at as providers, as protectors. And as a man, if you are not able to get employment and make money to take care of yourself and the people around you, that can be a very dark place for a man to be. And then drug and alcohol abuse. That's obviously, something that messes with your thought process, it messes with the chemical balances in your body, and it can be really, really detrimental to men in particular. So, in addition to those factors, there are some other theories, and we got this right off. We shared the website, so you can go look at this on your own. We got this from a psychologist who specializes in these studies and is looking at these challenges for men in particular. So, we just talked about one. Traditional male gender roles. So, traditionally, men are strong, silent, provide, protect, don't let things bother you, don't show your emotions to the world. They're told they need to be tough, crying is for pussies, you shouldn't show your emotions. All that's false, by the way. That doesn't make you a man. Doesn't make you a man to do any of those things. But traditional male gender roles have taught a lot of men that that's how you need to be if you're going to gain the respect of men and women in society. Next, depression may be very underdiagnosed in men. Men don't often talk about feelings of depression to their doctors. They don't talk about them to the people that they're close to. Men also tend to describe their feelings as stress rather than sadness or hopelessness. So that can be very challenging to get out of a man, because he doesn't want to look soft. He doesn't want to look weak. He doesn't want to look like he can't deal with his world. He doesn't want to look like he's struggling. That's how men are. It's not good. It's not good, by the way. We're not condoning that, or we're not advocating for that, but it's how men generally are. Men are less likely to seek help for emotional problems. Research suggests that depression is diagnosed less frequently in men because of the tendency to deny the illness, self-monitor symptoms, and self-treat. So men bear that burden on their own instead of reaching out to a friend, to a loved one, to a partner, to a doctor, to a medical professional. They kind of shoulder the load on their own, and that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. And so we have to make that okay for men to reach out and say, hey, look, I'm struggling right now. I need some help. I got to talk through this with somebody. I feel like whatever your particular situation is, there's people out there that want to help you, that want success for you, that want to help you get to a better spot. But as a society, we have kind of created an environment where men are skeptical that they're going to not be judged when they express those thoughts and feelings and emotions. Men are more likely to self-treat symptoms of depression with alcohol and other substances. So I heard a man that was talking the other day about, he's a speaker, and he said he doesn't like to speak on alcohol and drug abuse a lot because a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. And in his world, the truth is that alcohol or drugs are actually not the addiction. You're not addicted to the alcohol or the drug. That's the cure for whatever the addiction is that you're trying to mask. So you're not comfortable in your own skin. There's something going on that you don't like. You don't know how to handle it. you're uncomfortable with it, and the alcohol and depression is an attempt, or alcohol and addiction to drugs is a way to mask or dull those feelings. So until you deal with the underlying issue that's actually causing those actions, you're never going to be able to kick your habit of alcohol or drug use. So I thought it was very prescient, and I actually shared it with my wife the other day too. Because again, we've got 3 grown boys, and look, I think they're in a good spot, but we talk to them a lot. You just never know. You never know what people are going through, and you can't assume that everything's okay. You want to reach out and give them a chance to talk through what they need to talk through and know that they've got support. So, how do you prevent it? What do you do about it? So we just talked about a lot of particular symptoms or issues, and look, when you look at all of those, that encompasses most men. I don't know any men that don't have at least one of those things in their past, in their life, whether it's struggles at work, whether it's past physical abuse or sexual abuse, incarceration, losing a loved one. Like, that describes almost everybody. So everybody can use help. Everyone can use support. So what are the signs of depression? So in men, symptoms of depression include irritability, social withdrawal, anxiety, loss of interest or pleasure in things they used to be interested in or they got pleasure from, physical pains and complaints, engaging in risking behaviors, misusing drugs and alcohol, and being unable to keep up with normal daily tasks. So those are all things that you should look out for from the men that you interact with in your life. And look, again, like we talked about that big list of potential issues that drive suicidal thoughts, there's a big list of symptoms to look for in men. And I think you'd be hard pressed to think of one of those symptoms that doesn't exist in every man that you know, right? So that's challenging. It is what it is. And to keep men from getting to a bad spot, we need to encourage them to reach out for help and support, whether it be from parents, from family, from a spouse or a partner, from a medical professional, from friends, whoever. But they need to know that somebody's out there that they can talk to about this stuff. So that's actually the next step, offering support. If you notice the signs of depression, ask what you can do to help and let them know you are there to listen and help. Just let them know you're there. That's enough for a lot of men to know, hey, I don't have to do this alone. I'm not in this by myself. I've got someone or other people that care about me. So that on its own, just reaching out and saying, hey, I was thinking about you. How you doing? You want to talk? You want to go hit some golf balls? You want to go for a walk? Want to watch the game together? Want to go grab lunch? Whatever. Just that little interaction can make the difference sometimes. And not ignoring the signs is very important. Don't dismiss them. Or, he's just going through a phase. He's just acting weird. There's something going on with him. He'll figure it out. Don't assume those things because you don't know. And anytime you hear someone talk about, I'd be better off just not being here. I'd be better off if I hadn't been born. Or, man, wouldn't it be nice if this all just went away? When you hear those things, you got to step in and encourage them to talk to a doctor or a therapist because those are really concerning statements. Other ways that you can help reduce male suicide. So identifying men who are at risk and offer support, like we just talked about. Teach men coping and problem-solving skills to help them manage challenges with work, relationships, and health issues. So I can tell you as a young man, I was taught very early on how to handle a gun. I was taught how to train a dog. I was trained in all sorts of sports. I learned math. I learned reading. I learned social studies. I learned all of those things. But nobody sits men down, and I don't know if they sit women down either, to be straightforward, because I'm not a woman, so I didn't grow up and experience that. But nobody sits you down and says, hey, here's how to think differently when you're struggling. Here's how to talk about your feelings and emotions. Here's how to express your feelings and emotions in a productive and helpful way. So just by helping them deal with those things, we have lots of podcast episodes that talk about these exact things, that teach coping mechanisms, that teach ways to train you how to think. But it's very important that when you're going through those things, you have to acknowledge and experience the emotions that you're feeling. You can't just compartmentalize them and forget about them. You have to confront them and deal with them and acknowledge that you're feeling them. So just masking it or pretending that it's not a problem is not the approach. It's not going to fix it. You're just kicking the can down the road a little bit. And you might be creating kind of a pressure cooker where a big event happens instead of a couple of small conversations, and you really help that person get on a better path. So make mental health support options readily available. Find them a doctor, find them a therapist, find them a psychologist. Hey, I'll go with you on the first appointment if that would help. But make sure they know there's lots of options out there. There's lots of trained professionals that can help them through these things. Create opportunities that bring people together to form social connections and find support. Little things. I golf a lot with my sons, and just being out there, hitting the golf ball, screwing around, just having that interaction, like they're not alone. They're with somebody. They've got somebody there with them, and they know it's somebody that cares. It's taking the time to talk to them. It's engaging in a social activity with them. Meals are a good way to do that. Just have a phone call, 10-minute phone call while you're driving to work. Hey, just checking in. What's going on? Like, those little things make a huge difference. And then if you really think if you really have concerns about someone, you got to think about restricting their access to lethal things like guns, prescription drugs, knives. There's lots of ways that can manifest itself, but there are specific things that you really want to pay attention to if you think someone's really struggling and you're concerned about them. And then how do you get help? How do you get help for someone that's in this situation or someone you think might be in this situation? I think it's important to talk about it like that, because the problem is you can't wait until they try to take their life. That's way too late. So if you see any of these symptoms or you see any of these warning signs, you want to take action right now, like right now. Someone close to us was struggling with this about a year ago, and we talked to the parents of this person and said, hey, you need to get that person to your house right now and have them stay with you for a couple of days. Like, who cares if it's an overreaction? Who cares if it's not necessary? I'd rather be overreactive and be wrong than be underreactive and be wrong, because if you're underreactive, it can create a situation where something really bad happens, and we don't want to go down that road. That's not where we want to wind up at all. So how do you get help to people? Who's out there to help people if they're struggling with those thoughts or struggling with these emotions and they can't make sense of it on their own and they need some help? So you've got family, you've got friends, but a lot of times family and friends aren't equipped or trained to help someone change the way they think about these things and get them to a better spot. So you really want to, in these instances, get them professional help. And they need to know that there's all sorts of options as it relates to professional help, and we've listed those out here. Family doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, volunteer organizations specifically there for suicide or depression, community mental health centers, local hospitals, and social agencies. All of those things exist. They're a Google search away wherever you're at, and you can help the person that's struggling get connected with those so that they can seek help and get on a better path than the one that they're on. So, kind of a heavy subject today, but when we heard that statistic that the suicide rate among men was much higher than it was among women, and we started digging into that topic, we felt like it was a really good topic to share with you guys, and we wanted to provide both why it might be happening, what the symptoms are that you should look for to see if you have someone that you should be concerned about or you should be paying attention to, and how to help them or how to get them connected to help. So we laid all that out in this episode, and we hope that you absorb it. You take a kind of an assessment of the people that are in your world, and if someone's struggling, by all means, be the person that reaches out to give them a helping hand and help them get on a better path. I think it's terribly important. So that's the episode for today, guys. James puts it up over here every day. We've got a website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available on that website. All the links to our social media content is on that website. And we publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on our website as well. Also, it's super helpful if you can like, comment, and or subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Really appreciate you being here. Hope to see you next time, and everybody have a great week.